Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of The Millionaire Maker Show. I am your host, Lindsey Anderson. What an awesome week it has been over here. I hope you've had a really amazing week for you and your online business as we cruise into early February of 2024. As you look back on January, are you like, ooh, I'm definitely crushing my goals, I have a real process and a system to build my business? Or do you look at January and say, where did the time go? At this rate, I will never, ever grow my business. This is a common theme for many business owners. You think that you're going to be able to build this thing and figure it out, and get more done than you actually can. And that's why it is so essential to always get advice from the pros. Use someone else's system. You don't have time to be a marketer and a sales director and know everything there is about digital marketing and also your expertise. So if that's what you're feeling like as we're cruising around February of 24, make sure that you get signed up for the Unlaunch Method workshop. That's exactly why I host that workshop the first week of February, is because in January, we're all excited. We're going to the gym. And as you take a really good look at yourself and your business, and here you are, it's February, are you really where you want to be? If not, come to the Unlaunch Method workshop. Here, I will give you my entire marketing and sales system that will help you generate more sales on organic social media. It will set your business up in your content, your organic social media up in a system. And it's worth it really for you to even, put pause on any other marketing initiatives you are doing, because organic social media will only support those. And time is of the essence with organic social media. AI is coming online faster and allowing your competitors to get online faster and farther than ever before. Content is the name of the game, and it's free, and your customers are there. And there is just, for me, I know all of the mental blocks there are about getting clients on social media. I know what you've tried. I've seen it. But the truth is, you just don't see your clients online. They are there, and you can make so many sales. And you can make a system where you can depend on that, and you can actually breathe easy in your business because you're not always wondering where the next payment comes from. You're not starting from zero at the beginning of every month, but actually your business starts to serve you instead of the other way around. Unlaunch Method. Go to theunlaunchmethod.com. Get signed up. If you heard it on the podcast, because you are a valued listener of this podcast, you can skip the $37 for the VIP. You got to be in the VIP. I teach the strategies in the workshop part, and then how you overlay those into your specific niche and online business is where VIP comes in real handy. So I charge $500 for a half an hour of my time. You can get that for $37, but because you're a podcast listener, all you have to do is reach out to me. Go to @the.lindsey.anderson. In fact, I'm on all the social media channels. Reach out to me on a social media channel, and I will make sure that you are on the VIP list, and then you can come to VIP. So if you heard it on the podcast, make sure you reach out to me personally. This is not something I always offer. It's for you because you're a podcast listener, and I really value that. And the action takers, podcast listeners, I find are the action takers. So because of that, come to the VIP, reach out. I don't care if you're hearing this a week or two after, okay? And you wish that you would have, there's things that are happening. So reach out and be like, hey, I just heard the podcast. I want in on the VIP. What are my options? And we will get something set up. Go to the Unlaunch Method workshop. We're covering 3 things: what to post on social media to attract a high quality audience. Number 2, how to get that audience off of social and into your making some sales from them. And then number 3 is sales. Profitability is in sales. The more you know about sales, the better your whole business runs, period. End of sentence. So I got to teach you what I know about sales. Now, today's podcast is all about vulnerability. Now that I've been on the trust, everybody knows my business. But guess what? For me, it's A-okay because they know my business because I was vulnerable on the trust. I certainly showed some less than socially acceptable character traits when I was on that show. And I was vulnerable, and people have a real opinion about that. But everybody knows my business in that way because I was vulnerable. And everybody knows my business because I understand that, even in politics, only 50, like you have to have a big majority vote. That's like 52%. No one will ever like you. I understood this going in. But vulnerability online, and I'm grateful for the traffic, and I'm grateful for, the controversy. I'm grateful for people caring enough about the show and me and who I was to them on the show that they would reach out on social media, because ultimately I'm looking for an audience. Within that audience are people that I can help build their online business. And honestly, today we're talking about vulnerability in sales, vulnerability in your online business, because it really is such an essential part of making sales and really connecting with your audience. So let's talk a little bit about the trust and how I showed vulnerability on the show. Now, first of all, that very first episode where Jake and I are talking, well, actually, I'm going to back up. That very first episode with the secrets, the secrets episode. And that was actually the very first challenge that we did. That was the first night. We're just like barely getting to know each other. We both go sit on two sides of the bench. Brooke walks out with this box of secrets, and she hands one or two boxes of secrets. One box goes to one side, the other box goes to the other side, and we draw, and they're secrets. Now, did we sit down with Netflix story producers? And he said, what are some secrets we could put in this box? No. Okay. My secret was I had cheated on my ex-husband 20 years ago with my current husband. And that was my secret. Now, when that came out on the other side, that was a secret that you have massive amounts of interviews to get on these shows. And I shared that in an interview 3 stories back when I'm hip deep in telling this guy about my family, my history or whatever, right? You're like in a conversation. I remember getting off that particular interview and sharing with my husband, I shouldn't have shared that. Like, why did I share that? And I didn't think much about it till I'm sitting there during episode 1, and here is my secret. Now, I had a couple of ways to address that. It's positioning. I could either let people try to guess and like, who knows what they would say about me, or I could take this as my opportunity to share a little bit about my perspective, where I was 20 years ago when that happened, and actually make a case for myself. So that's what I did. I stood up. I said, yes, that secret is mine. I will own that secret. I knew enough about sales, and we'll talk about this more in the episode. I knew enough about sales that being upfront about what like being honest about some things builds trust more with your customer than pretty much anything you will do. So I was also hoping and knowing that it's human nature that if I was honest about this, that it would actually do me a favor. So I stood up and said, yes, this was 20 years ago. I had left the Mormon LDS religion. I didn't have much of a support system. And my husband, my first husband 20 years ago, was a serial cheater. And I really couldn't see my way out of it. It was 20 years ago. So I was able to state my case at the end of that episode. When we talk about, being vulnerable, coming out of the trust, and I'd been online for 20 years. I hadn't really been privy to the wild west of the internet where anyone will just say whatever they want to you. I'd have some negative comments, but nothing massive. The show definitely opened my eyes to both the amount of comments I could get as well as the range, how mean the mean comments could get, how the nice comments could get, and just the massive amount of comments that came in. And go and listen to my previous episode on this about how to positively handle negative comments. I talk more about how I'm approaching comments, but it is something that I do have to be vulnerable. Like, I'm reminding myself as I interact in the comments is these are real people. Like, I think being born, at the time that I was, like, I think my first cell phone was when I was like 23 or something. And so we knew how to have relationships with people like in person. And then all of a sudden they're like people, but they're online and they don't seem like real people. I don't know. I think it's a unique perspective that I have to constantly remind myself, pretend you're with this person in real life and they're saying this to you, how would you respond? And it is in my value system to always like ask questions, be open for people to have a differing opinion, and we can learn stuff from people. So that's kind of my strategy going into comments. It's a vulnerable place to be, right? Is opening yourself up, and when someone's disrespectful to you in the comments, to shut them down and delete them is certainly like my gut instinct, but there's something to learn there. And so being a little bit more vulnerable in the comments for me and my brand has certainly paid off. And it's also my values that people want to be heard. And so I make sure that, I mean, in the comments I have found, as long as like their opinions on there, then not so many people have to make the same point. So it gives me an opportunity to hear people's points about me and how they just disagreed with my agreed or disagreed with my actions on the show. And then it gives me an opportunity to state my case. Maybe they could find in my response, because it's a respectful response, that perhaps I'm not so bad after all. And that's really how I go into it. And so vulnerability and sales and growing an online business, it's certainly such an important part about connecting with your audience on organic social media and making those sales. When it comes to sharing limitations in your products and services with your audience, that's such an important part of the sales process. So let me give you an example, right? Because it does seem counterintuitive. Why would I tell them something that doesn't work? It's going to drive customers away. And you have to really watch that on a sales call. So limitations, for example, my Content That Converts program. This is my group program where you get my proven systems in videos, and we help you strategically and with the tech to actually implement these very, very quickly, getting sales all along the way. And while that program is not the right fit for everyone, I also have a VIP program where when people are a little farther along and they're really looking to have dependable $1 million plus years in their online business, they want the systems, they're finally done messing around and they just want answers now. That's my VIP program. And that's, I talk a lot about this in the Unlaunch Method Workshop. Make sure you're listening on day 4 of the Unlaunch Method Workshop. I'm going to be covering the prescription portion of the sales call. This will change mind-blowingly how you view sales calls from here on out. It's going to make it so much easier, and you're going to be able to get out of your own way. It's a prescription portion of my sales call strategy. But the point is, you get them in, you ask them a list of specific questions, you actually understand them, and then you prescribe. Not everybody who comes to content that's on a sales call will I even invite to Content That Converts. That's for a very specific business owner. And so I am honest with them. I said, in this program, you will fail. We have a fail forward faster mentality. The faster you can get these events going, the more info we'll have, the more practiced you'll be. This is for people who want to get in, understand an iterative approach, and improve ASAP by failing, because we implement an iterative approach here. You do 5 of the invite-only events, you're going to start seeing a pattern and closing people on like clockwork. It's like a system. And you do that 5 times, you get the system up and going, and there's resistance there with the system because it's hard and it's time consuming. And then you put it in a system and all of a sudden it's easy and not time consuming. So you got to get over one to get to the other. So that's why in the Content That Convert program, we believe in a fail forward faster mentality, because you have to learn how to speak about your program. You have to learn how to convey your unique value proposition so that your perfect customer hears you. And that takes practice. And so do it 5 times ASAP. You can do it 5 times over 5 years. That's not going to be helpful. I don't actually recommend. Or you can do it 5 times like in the next month. and get the answers that you need. So iterative approach. Another limitation of my program is somebody who has to be comfortable living outside your comfort zone. What I'm asking you to do can be scary, or you would have already done it. Okay? How do we solve that though? Do you see how I'm telling you how we solve these problems? The program. So that's what you want your service to do when you're vulnerably sharing the limitations of your product or service. So you got to be able to live outside your comfort zone. How we solve that in the program is I have a step-by-step system. The easiest way to live outside your comfort zone is if somebody is being like, and this is the next best step. Just go do it. Close your eyes. Take a jump off that diving board out of your comfort zone and just follow these steps. Trust the process. And we have a process in the Content That Converts program. That's exactly what it helps you do. And then finally, you have to continually bet on yourself. Listen up. If you're not the kind of person that is prepared to continually bet on yourself, that you are the captain of this ship, that it's not some marketer's problem, your customer's problem, your mom's problem, your upbringing's problem, your kids' problem, your husband's problem, why this business isn't working the way you want it to, why the business isn't serving you instead of the other way around. When you're ready to stop saying it's everyone else's problem and like it's just my problem and I'm living my life and this is my business and I'm the one who benefits. So I have to step up and do all the hard stuff and I have to do it now. And how important is it to me? And I will make my needs known so that I can get this business off the ground. Now, I know it can be hard to continually bet on yourself and to not look for external validation. There's some book recommendations I can offer you. That's not for today, though. You can get signed up for the Unlaunch Method. But one thing that makes that easier is when you're in my program, the Content to Convert program, because I know it's hard to continually bet on yourself. It's hard, but it is worth it when you find that inside. So keep doing that and working on knowing what you bring first. But one way to do that is analytics. Part of our iterative process and you writing down how many people came, see how the system's working. Look, the last time we had a launch, we invited 600 people. And the last 5 times we did this, we closed over 100K. So I'm not so worried about betting on myself in the next launch because we now have 1,000 people coming. Do I think I will close over 100K because I have 6 months of proof of analytics to tell me I did? Yeah, it's a lot funner and easier to bet on yourself than you show up in a more bigger way and you close even. So that's what it sounds like to offer limitations and why you understand their limitations. I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Customer. And you've heard this before, but this is why we're different. So even though we have limitations, I understand and I will help you on the other side. That's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. So there you have it. Vulnerability. Yeah, I call them vulnerability flexes. If you've been with me for years, you've heard me say vulnerability flexes. And for me, it has been a huge key in my life. It has helped me so much because vulnerability is key to understanding your own value, getting closer to people, understanding your customer. What does that look like? It looks like you're being scared of saying something or doing something, and you just do it anyway. You do a little flex, okay? I'm scared about DMing people. You do it anyway. That's a vulnerability flex, and you'll find it's just like working out. Then you'll be really good at being vulnerable because then you'll start understanding the real blessings and the real benefits it can bring to your life. Okay? Vulnerability and gratitude. Those 2 things, don't forget them. Super, super awesome. Super awesome for growing a business. Those 2 things right there. Okay? But again, I think that's for another podcast episode. For now, I hope you enjoy the Unlaunch Method. I hope you join me. Make sure you go to theunlaunchmethod.com. Thank you to everybody who has subscribed to the podcast. I love the podcast. We come out every single Tuesday. Do not forget to subscribe for the latest happenings over here in Lindsey Anderson Coaching. Okay? Online over here where you will learn how to grow and scale your online business. No nonsense approach. This is really what it takes. And if you go and execute, my friends, an online business is within your grasp. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you next week.